Hello, welcome everybody. My name is Phil Rice, and today I am with the wonderful, amazing, sensational, I'll leave it at that, Greg Doyle, from Greg Doyle, astral.com, my good brother over the ditch there in Brisbane. I'm here in New Zealand, in Auckland, and this is another sort of special treat. We're going to be diving a little deeper into Reiki, one of my favorite topics. And today we are going to be talking about, I put it in the heading there, Reiki Teachings for Life. And we're going to talk a little bit about, we're just going to extrapolate on that. And we've got some things to talk about. So anyway, without further ado, Greg, brother, thank you so much for joining me today. You're a busy man. And so how are you, bro?
Oh, pleasure, Phil. That was a lovely introduction, by the way. Always lovely to chat. Yeah, look, it is lovely to chat and on this topic as well, because there's just so much stuff. And we were talking a little bit before the live stream that, there's Reiki and there's Reiki and there's Reiki. And what does that mean? And it is an adventure. It's a magical adventure to be a part of, I think, both as the channel and as the recipient. So, but there's just so much to it. And I think to increase the understanding for people, so they just try it for themselves. And yeah, it's a magic subject. I love to chat on this.
Cool. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, there's Reiki, 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 and this Reiki and that Reiki. And what it becomes it's a very personal sort of adventure, unique to everyone, I think, in a lot of cases. Certainly there are probably some common denominators, some overlaps, and some, some features that a lot of people would say that they experience. But, also there's something about having for people who are curious, Reiki is probably one of the best known frameworks as a launching point to getting into energy healing or into sort of a holistic sort of thing. I mean, I know so many people who've done a Reiki course and Reiki's not their main thing. In fact, some of them have started with Reiki, have the experience and gone, wow, okay. But it may have just been going to a Reiki course, even not having a healing as such. And that's done something or had an effect on them that's launched them towards something else. So it was still part of their journey. Just maybe being in an environment, in a learning environment, or seeing a teacher, or going to see a practitioner and having the experience. And I guess this is a really good place to start. Is for a lot of people and we've talked about this before. For a lot of people who come in to me for Reiki, for a lot of people, it's their first time. It's actually their very first meditation experience, if I would call it that. It's a mindfulness experience, being on the table. We set up a nice environment, and we bring the music down, and we have soft lighting, and we bring them down, and even just that as a starting point for an introduction to becoming mindful of their body, and I guess of subtle energy, depending on their level of perceptibility and so on. So, how would you sort of frame, especially people who are maybe newbies to Reiki, what experiences could you share to maybe share some wisdom? Sorry, I'm getting a little abstract here, but I'll just let you go, bro.
No, it's a good point. I think for a lot of people, it is their first touch with that kind of thing. And I say to some of them who sometimes it's surprising, well, maybe not surprising, but some people are kind of a little bit, they're anticipating, they're not quite sure what's going to happen. And what I'll often say in the beginning, at worst, it's like a deep automatic meditation. It's like you're going to a phase of consciousness that is not only very relaxing, like a deep, monk-like Zen monk meditation, but you're going to a phase that is optimal for healing. So your body, has this energy, and really that at very worst is if someone doesn't know what's going to happen. That's the beauty of it. It's just it can be a gentle way in, as you say, and there's never too much. But by the same token, people have come in. Reiki is Reiki. Like, I get clients coming in who have never done anything like this before. They've never really meditated, and they're just jumping off the table. What I mean by that is they go very deep, and they're having a lot of physical releases, and they come away going, "Oh wow!" So you can never really preempt what's going to happen. This is where it's wonderful as a Reiki channel. And even though I've been doing it all these years, I'm still like a little kid in a candy store in the point of view from the perspective of the Reiki channel. I just never know what's going to happen. There is an aspect of magic playing out when you call when like a Reiki channel calls in the Reiki. It's always different for everyone. So it's, and you cannot not have that connection with the client. So it's like because you're standing in this stream of, I'm getting abstract now, but if you're standing in this stream of kind of, you know, universal consciousness, which is, you know, really you're bringing through healing for that person. You're really bringing through an aspect of self-love for that person, because in the end, I get the feeling that healing is actually, you know, all about self-love. So and because you're the channel, you cannot not have this connection with the client of, it's a real feeling that you almost see the client through the eyes of the universe. You know, you see the client as this perfect being, and this is also part of the Reiki thing. It's sort of it enables the client or the person on the table to kind of tap into that you know, kind of presence and connection with the cosmos. And it's often bandied around, but it is an aspect of unconditional love. This is what healing is. You know, it's, you could say that's a new age concept. You could say that's, I even don't think it's that abstract. It's not even that new age. That's what it is to experience. So it's constantly a new adventure every day. And I have strayed off the topic there a bit.
No, that's great. I love it. Let's just freestyle jam it all the way, brother. And you know, and I love it. You know how you frame that, because this is like a deep level of care when you're taking care to a new level, in the sense that you know, I really personally enjoy setting up the table, going through my own ritual, setting up the table, laying out the linen. You know, putting some candles on, maybe burning a bit of sage or something like that, putting on some nice chill tunes, something just very low in the background, you know, and just setting up that sacred space for whatever will occur to occur. And you know, healing is the word healing is similar to meditation in the sense that it's an umbrella term. Meditation, you know, connotatively can involve a lot of things. There's lots of different types of meditation. You could be going for a walk, you could be going for a run, you could be sitting in lotus position, you could be focusing on something, you could be visualizing, you could be doing this, that, and the other thing. It's but you know, with the word healing coming from the Greek word holos, meaning you know, whole, or to make whole. When you're healing something, you're making something whole. And I think that knowing some of these, like, you know, I guess, you know, some of these terms have become a little diluted in their value, in a sense. Like even the word Reiki, like, you know, there's a Reiki practitioner on every corner just about, and they all bring their own unique thing. But where am I going with this? So, you know, but understanding that, you know, healing will happen, natural healing will happen how it's going to happen. And so this, I think one aspect of the Reiki session is that, you know, creating this nice sacred space and going into meditation and the relaxation, like the doctors say, you know, rest and relaxation,
Exactly.
you know, and obviously meditation is, you know, one way to improve the signal to noise ratio. And so, you know, if you've got a greater connection to yourself, your higher self, if we want to use that term, to universal consciousness, then, you know, you're going to have more information available to you to make better decisions that align your thoughts, emotions, and actions to live a much more aligned, I'm using the speech codes a bit here, to, you know, to create a much more aligned life. And I mean, that's a very simplified, almost like mechanical way of putting it. But I think that, you know, that's one explanation I would use to someone who maybe was, you know, like, you know, they're like, you know, really left brain or really analytical thing. But this has been my observation as a starting point, has been when people get on the table for the first time and they're like, wow, you know, like, if anything, I'm feeling really relaxed. And then I go, was there anything else? And they go, well, actually, yeah, there was some visuals, and then there's some imagery, and then there was some sensations, and then you probe them a bit more. It's like dream recall in the morning. You're writing your dreams down, and as you write them, you remember more of them. And they do a bit of backwards, reverse sort of thinking, and they're like, wow, actually that was, like there was actually quite a bit going on there. And sometimes I think they get so caught up in the moment. I have some clients. Sorry, I'll stop in a sec. I had sometimes have some.
I'm just going to close the window here because we've got a neighbour who's loud. Hang on.
Yeah, all good.
That's better.
Yeah, no worries. So I think too, like I've had clients who want to tell me about what's going on during the session. I'm like, look, just enjoy the ride. We'll talk about it after. But this idea of like introducing them to deeper relaxation, going into states of consciousness that they haven't had before, where healing is more likely to occur. They're more, because part of it, I think too, is building up the rapport, and I don't know, like, there is and then of course there's the actual practice of the energy flowing in itself, and that can be quite a unique experience for receivee and practitioner alike. I mean, I'm sure you've had this experience where one session, it's like it's being sucked out of your hands into their head or into their torso or whatever, and then the next one it's kind of might just be like a soft fuzzy sort of thing, and then the next one it might be almost imperceivable, but there's something going on, and they're really responsive even though you don't feel as much.
Exactly. So it's really all about the client. What I've learned is over time it's all about who is there. So because I'm not sure if people understand, but when we bring through Reiki, we bring it through for that person. So it seems that the client brings along an aspect of themselves. When I say a higher aspect, an aspect of higher knowing, that is kind of along for the ride, and it's kind of working out, kind of directing traffic for the energy. Because it really is different for every client. And as you say, when you have concurrent clients, you see that, well, it's not just how I'm feeling today, because it changes so much for everyone. Mm-hmm. So that's what I find really amazing. As I guess one has to say Reiki channel, because that's the expression and people understand that. But that is what the amazing thing is. Over time, you kind of let go of your will per se to heal, because you realize, because Reiki means universal life energy, so that assumes that or presumes that the universal life energy is a healing energy. And I like that notion, because what I found from my astral exploits as well is that the default energy of the cosmos is a benevolent energy. It's not a choice per se, that is. So as humans, we are basically walking around with these fields of resistance. And what Reiki does is it connects us to the unresistance, if you like, which is the unconditional cosmos, which is this flow of energy. So it's like, to be human, as the Buddhists say, is to suffer. And really, Reiki is that energy, is healing energy. So universal life energy is healing energy. So therefore, for me, it's this notion that, to walk around with a human emotional body, energy body, is essentially to be in a state of unknowing to a certain degree, or a state of unhealing. But as you say, healing means whole. So we're just connecting with that energy that helps us reunite with the whole, and it really is a letting go. It's a letting go of this energy in. It's a bringing it in. It's not a forcing. And as you said, the energy often feels as being sucked out of the hand. So we're not so much exploding our will upon the client. It's the client that is kind of bringing this energy in from us. So it does not fail to fascinate me every day. I have clients. It still fascinates me. One amazing experience years ago was that I got this BCC removed from my forehead, which was I didn't know it was going to be such a big thing, and it was like a day surgery. But anyway, I had these epic stitches. They had to take out a lot of stuff, and they had to pull the skin, and I was in agony. And for someone who doesn't have any painkillers in the house, I was in agony. Anyway, I didn't realize it would be such a big procedure. The next day, I had all these clients lined up. Of course, I shouldn't have had these clients lined up the next day. So I rock up to give Reiki in a fair degree of pain. And I had this whopping big bandage. Was looking a bit pale, a bit worse for wear. As soon as I started giving Reiki, this epic pain gone.
Yeah, bro. And
this is the wonderful thing. And I'm not at all saying that, I was doing Reiki then, and I wasn't. It just happened. It happens to be a side effect, a lovely side effect. So I'm giving Reiki, and I thought, well, this is interesting. I'm in zero pain. As soon as I stopped that client, bang, the pain's back in again. Yeah. Thinking, okay, in an hour I've got another client. The next client comes, pain's gone. And that was fascinating for me, because someone who is quite obstinate when it comes to painkillers, or medication, that was very interesting for me to be in that position of being in really quite a bit of agony. And I'm pretty good with pain. And then for it just to cut to zero when I brought the Reiki through. So this is also kind of testament to how amazing the whole thing is. So as a Reiki channel over time, of course, we've got this residual stuff coming through. So you can't not be affected by it. So it's like when a client comes in and I look at them, I can't help but see them through the eyes of the cosmos, because we're constantly bringing through that energy. And it sounds glib, it sounds cliched or whatever, and it's very hard to put into words. But part of the Reiki treatment is when that person comes in, you see that perfection. You feel that kind of, love from the cosmos. And it's a different definition, different experience in the human form. Not talking about Reiki, that's a whole different thing. And it's difficult to explain that, not sounding very, very new agey, but the fact is it's very, very true. So over time, the Reiki channel, is themselves, their energy goes through a purification process, which can't be denied, and is often underestimated and understated, and so it's a very interesting thing. And I would call myself, I've come from the background of being a normal guy. Like I remember, okay, I love music, like yourself, Phil. But I always remember looking at my hands thinking, there's more to this. There's more to my hands. And I remember the first book I got was the Barbara Brennan book, Hands of Light, which I think a lot of people got that one. And I remember thinking, yeah, but what do I do with this? Where do I go? What do I do? I read a few books. Can everyone heal? And, of course, and we say, yeah, if you get if a child bumps himself, or if you bump yourself, you rub yourself with your hand. So that's natural. But I knew there was more to it. It's not just, there's more. And as you alluded to in the very beginning, Phil, Reiki is a great for someone wanting to be a healer. Reiki is kind of a great opening of that door. It's a great way into that, and other things flow from that. I'm interested in other, and you become that vessel in the best sense. But Reiki is a great intro, because there is still to this day, I find it a bizarre process, the attunement process. And I remember when I had my Reiki 1, I thought, I've got to go and get attuned to Reiki. And so the Reiki master puts symbols into your crown and into your forehead and all this kind of stuff. And I felt a difference. I thought, well, how can that be? And from that day, I wanted to be a Reiki master. I sort of wanted to be a Reiki channel, or whatever that was. I wanted to do Reiki. I didn't know it was Reiki channel. And from that day, I thought, well, that's bizarre. A person can come, put a few symbols into your head, into your aura, draw a few symbols with their hand and whatever they're doing, and you feel energy differently. I mean, to me, that was so profound, so vastly, super hyper profound. just as a human being. That, so that's what I say to people. Some people say, oh, where do I go with healing? Where do I go with healing? Well, Reiki is a great way in because, it's magic. It's a magical process. It's a beautiful magical process where, of course, the channel of healing is there for everyone. Everyone has that. But what Reiki does, it seems to make it more present. You feel it more. It's more tangible, and you're more likely, or you feel moved more to use it in a way than you wouldn't. So that is the beauty of Reiki. And from there, we go on whatever paths and whatever, interdimensional highways. Everybody's traversing different realities and all this kind of stuff. So Reiki is a great in, I say it's almost like a wormhole to a greater cosmos. It's like a wormhole to a greater aspect of potential. Reiki, and that's just the beginning, isn't it? As you would attest to. It's just the beginning. From there, it's the great adventure that awaits. So, both from the point of view of the person receiving the Reiki, but also from the actual, Reiki practitioner's point of view, it's just amazing, that it is the way it is, and I think that's why it's been so. Even though it's so really kind of sounds really way out there, magic-y, a bit too wacko, the idea of someone putting symbols in and I'm surprised the West has taken it on. It's absolutely not dogmatic, which is a wonderful thing. That's what I like about it too. I'm not really into religion, so I do like that notion that it's very freewheeling. It's very instinctive. It's kinesthetic. It's experiential. You can grab onto it. It's great. Anyway, over to you, Phil.
Well, I think you're right there. It allows for a lot of creative license, and we can see that validated in the many different schools of Reiki that have branched off from the core. If we're talking about Mikao Sui, because the word Reiki has many different connotations. I mean, the word itself refers to, Rei translated in Japanese means spirit, soul, energy, and then it has developed into universal life force energy, being energy. It's almost like an energy with an intention of sorts. Well, actually, we just covered that, so it's not quite, because we're just allowing it. We're not saying we want this person to heal.
We're allowing it.
Yeah. So, but in my own explorations of consciousness, as I know you're a bit of a fan, because obviously you teach astral projection as well in meditation, and I mean those are like astral projection. I mean next to things like Reiki and that, I mean, like, these are some of the best kept secrets on the planet in my view. Like, if you haven't had an out of body experience, man, you're missing out. Like, you don't know what you're missing, really.
That's right.
Even a lucid dream, like, you forget the virtual reality, forget the football games, man. Like you said, you had one of the best ads I've ever seen for astral projection. You really should get out more. And that was just like my favorite way. You had a real way with that, bro. But I agree that the general direction of universe is evolution, and there is a self-correcting mechanism within nature. And I think Reiki could be kind of considered one way of looking at that. And we do, as animals will follow their instincts, so they will still generally head in the direction that their instincts lead them, but they will still hurt themselves, and they will still experience suffering. And that quote before about that popular Buddhist quote about life is suffering, I actually heard someone say the other day, who's a reasonably well studied, and he had a slightly different view on the translation, that he in his own research said that the word generally, well, his understanding is that the word, and this is just another way of looking at it, I guess, is that the word relates more to, or translates or transliterates more to, stress. So life is stress, and the stress using that sort of platform or premise, the stress is what is the irritation that the oyster experiences when it receives the calcium, and it stores it up in itself, and then it becomes the pearl, and the stress is the flower breaking through the earth. It has to push through to get for the bud to rise, and these sorts of things. And this is as the great author and speaker Michael Tsarian talks about, the world is the whetstone which we sharpen the sword of ourselves against. and we need that so we don't
Mm.
go dull. I mean, these are just such great analogies in my view and metaphors of like, you know,
Yeah.
but you know, we can't,
Diamond,
we,
it's like
we
the
can
diamond being, it's like the diamond being the stone that is burnt to incredible temperatures and becomes, yeah, that's right.
That's right. You know, the pressure, like the diamonds are a product of pressure. And then,
Pressure.
you know, and then you got to polish the diamond. You know, this is another, these are, you know, great, you know, Buddhist
Yes.
terms, but you know, these are all wonderful ways. And I think another great thing that Reiki offers people, and some of my favorite authors on the topic have brought in the value, for me anyway, the value of like, you know, looking at the sources of the various symbols, even the kanji for Reiki, and breaking that down, what they call the orthography, and understanding how the symbols are created and what they represent, because we're talking about a whole different culture that's a way bunch older than, say, you know, our experience. And so their relationship to, you know, how, you know, symbols represent concepts and things, and how that can help organize information and help us conceptualize it. Because in my view as well, another thing I've come across, brother Greg, is that, you know, um, uh, I think part of what the teacher does is to show you what you already have. You just don't remember it, you know. And you know, the teacher is a few steps ahead, so to speak, or a few more steps ahead. And you know, we have this, we are so much more, but we've forgotten. And I think too that for a lot of people who are caught up in the mainstream 9 to 5 kind of world, or what do we want to call it, you know, Coca-Cola Kardashians, or whatever the phrase was I heard the other day. Not to get derogatory or anything here, but you know, there is a greater reality available to us. And so, I mean, a mate of mine, actually, I've got a mate, Ricky, who went in, he's a muso, he's a top like guitar player, singer, just all round dude, right? He did a Reiki course. His girlfriend talked him into it, and you know, what it does is it's like when you go into a Reiki course, and this would be great to start talking about the teaching side of things. We're just at the bottom of the half hour. I'm just going to say, anyone in there who's got a question, we'll answer some questions in probably the last quarter. We'll be finishing up in about 30 minutes, just so you know. So if you've got any questions, throw them in, and we'll throw them out there. But this idea that creating a safe space, or a place where people can play, in a sense, and have that childlike sort of sense of exploration at a Reiki course, where you just show up and you've got a bunch of people who are like, you know, hey, what's up? You know, a really loving, caring environment, and it's very open-minded, and you know, let's explore, let's play. Here's some things that maybe you weren't aware of before, and I'm sure that you've maybe had some people come to you for teaching who have maybe been to other teachers. I mean, I've had students, music students, come to me from other teachers, and I've had my students go to other teachers, and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm open to going to study with another Reiki teacher. I mean, I'd be more than interested to come over and you know, study under you, brother, you know, and see, you know, I get an understanding, because you know, you're going to have a viewpoint that, you know, I haven't come across, and that's one of the most valuable things out there. Is one thing I cannot get from myself is your point of view, and that might be the gems that I haven't discovered yet. So, but as far as like, you know, the experiences, that, you know, when you create a Reiki teaching environment, and like I'm yet personally to teach Reiki, I would be called, in Japan, I'd be called a Shihan Kaku, which is an assistant teacher, because I haven't actually taught yet. But you know, as far as, you know, my experiences being going to Reiki classes and learning the you know, the Reiki system from my teachers, and that, you know, just having the space created for possibility to occur, for experiences and intuitions, and in a safe kind of learning environment where there's just no judgment. Everyone's just like going, let's just play and see what happens, right? I mean, you know, I'd love for you to sort of just wrap on that for a bit, if you could, bro.
Yeah, it's a good point. I do like teaching, and I think what I found over the years, like in the beginning, I jumped in as soon as I became a Reiki master, and I think I had a course of about 6 people that weekend, and then it was too much. I remember at the time, really, and I felt, well, what I mean by too much is I felt I had to control everything aspect of it. What I've learned over the time is, as you say, it's more playful. You kind of Ooh, it's, you know, a couple of days. It is like stepping into the TARDIS. It's kind of like, it's an experience that becomes in itself very organic between the people, and there's a lot of exploration going on, and it is a chance for people to, you know, open their minds and experience something way out of the ordinary. So it's a lot more flowing than it used to be. I tend to you know, I have my order of, you know, attunements and stuff, things I want to do, but it's fascinating that the bouncing off people. It's always nice if you. I got a course next weekend, actually, Reiki 2-1. It's kind of just with 4 people, and it's lovely to because that course would be like no other course. That
Yeah.
particular constellation of people, and it's very interesting. I once had one. You've got different dynamics, and as I said, I've learned to kind of, you learn to let things happen, because there are things, greater things at work. And I once had a course, and there was a woman who was asking a lot of questions toward the end. It was kind of funny, and someone who I probably wouldn't normally bond with. And at the end of the course, she said, "You know, Greg," because I didn't have all the answers to the questions she asked. And I like questions, but there are a lot of questions, and it's not a criticism. But at the end, she said, "You know, Greg, I really enjoyed this course. You really challenged me. You really challenged me to open up aspects of my mind that I hadn't thought about, and I want to thank you for that. I thought it was great. I thought, you know, after a while, it's like everyone's everyone, and you kind of, you know, as I said, through the Reiki mind, it's kind of, it's a beautiful adventure. It's just all love, you know. There's no blockage. So even if there's someone in a group who is, you know, different or very left brain, it was kind of good to hear that. It was good fun, you know. And I remember, you know, it's amazing, because you'd think, you know, a couple of days, like when I do like a group of 4, that's over 2 days, and you think, gee, 2 days, can you really? Is there that much to learn? And the thing is, we're all learning from each other in a course. You know, everyone, as you
Mm.
say, you know, and what the beautiful thing as a Reiki teacher is, you learn from your students. You learn the most from your students. You learn so much from their clients. You learn. It's just fantastic. So you're there. Also, I find if we jump in the deep end, now I've taught a few courses. What I find is, in the best possible sense, it's kind of not me teaching them. I kind of go along for the ride. It's like the Reiki session itself. It becomes a state of almost deja vu, where you're kind of watching things going on. You're watching yourself say things. You're watching certain meditations be presented. You're sometimes are giving answers that you wouldn't necessarily have thought to give. So it becomes an extension of the Reiki channel, becoming that, and it takes a while to grow into that, and so, you know, it's a great environment always, and people go away. I mean, for me as a Reiki master, as a Reiki teacher, really, because it's just a sensei in Japanese. For people to go away feeling transformed, to feel as though there is something they have that is tangible they can use for healing, that's what it's all about, you know. And everything else is fun, and it is a transformation that goes on just in 2 days, you know, or even 1 day if it's 1 or 2 people. So yeah, it's really good fun. I never know what's going to happen in a Reiki course, you know.
It's,
It's great.
I think, like you said, you know, that's the kind of the magic of it all. You know, is just like, let's just roll with it and see what happens. Uh, you know, I've got a couple of things on here that I'd love to talk about, because, you know, obviously there might be some Reiki practitioners who are, you know, practitioner level, or level 2 as we call it, or adept, or what's the other word for it, okuden. And, you know, I think this, when you start picking up your practice, you know, there are some things that, you know, that are good to be aware of. And that is, you know, we started talking about empathy versus sympathy here. And these are like, this is almost like how we sort of responsibly use our energy, in a sense, because we can, deplete ourselves in certain ways. And, I'd love to hear, your experience with that, obviously being a man, 15 years, you've got
Yeah.
some stories to share. So go for it.
Look, it is interesting. I remember in the beginning, this whole notion of will, and this whole notion of, you want this person to be as well as they can in the beginning, and that can really get in the way. The sympathy versus empathy thing is interesting. It's a little bit like if a friend comes to you and they tell you that they relate their terrible story to you, and you say, "Oh, you poor thing. Yeah, oh, that's terrible, terrible, terrible. Oh, that's terrible." Sometimes you do it out of lip service, but otherwise, you really mean it. And when you really mean it like that, "Oh, isn't it terrible?" That's kind of compounding the situation. So a healer, after a while, I think to survive, I think it automatically happens. Like sometimes I have clients come in just a few days after I've just seen them, and I've basically forgotten what we talked about a few days before. And in many ways, I justify that to myself as being in the present moment, and then I don't need to bring that past into the present, nor do I wish to project the issues, solidify those issues onto that person. So over time, this is just my story, I found that almost to avoid, there are some who, I know some healers who kind of get chronic fatigue, or who kind of, they lose their energy, they become very tired, or they even move away from the profession altogether. So for longevity in the profession, it's about being present and being there, and kind of, as I said, you are an ambassador for the cosmos, and you embody that. You embody that. It's not a put on. It's not a hey. You're wearing, as soon as they come in, you're thinking Reiki. You are in that, and I guess you learn tools to be in that space. But so the best gift you can give the client is actually a certain detachment. That is more in line, I feel, with the energies of the cosmos, which is not so much the good-bad notion. The cosmos, to me, is a benevolent energy, as I said earlier. It's a benevolent energy. It's a benevolent energy where the whole is there. So really, that energy, on a certain level, doesn't need to promote and compound the poor you in the client. Okay, and I'm not I'm not meaning to sound cold-hearted here. I've just found that is the case. That over time, it's a feeling of you're holding that space, and so rather than needing to perpetuate a certain condition within that person, so yeah, it's a certain detachment that I think that it naturally cultivates itself over time in you, and it's very good. I found it's an excellent space to be as a healer, where you kind of look through your eyes at the client, devoid of any judgment on many, devoid of even the judgment of you need healing, or you need to be healed, you're not right, or that's terrible, or you're damaged somehow. I don't know. It's just beyond that, and it's a very beautiful space to be in. So you've got to understand too, and as you know, Phil, like when someone comes to you and they may be talking about a suicide attempt or something very profound, it would be very easy to be, as a human being, as a compassionate human being, to get kind of swallowed up into that, and then to project your own and imagine, oh wow, well, what must be that like to suicide? But that's not really what it's all about at that moment. It's natural. There's a certain amount of sympathy going on, of course, but empathy is away from condition. It's that free flow of energy to that person. So it's kind of like, actually, this guy was the guy who taught me empathy in the very beginning. This guy is the Buddha. He's called, and he's kind of the laughing Buddha. He popped up. I probably mentioned it before in a talk with you, but it was hilarious. He used to pop up in the most inopportune of moments, and he taught me empathy to a great degree. What he taught me was this: people would come to me, and often in the beginning they were, friends or something out of the professional setting, and they'd be saying, "Oh, oh, it's terrible, this happened and this, and I was on the phone to Telstra and I had to wait for 6 hours, and they were telling me some terrible story. And I would find this guy chuckling in my stomach, literally. And I would just be grinning. And I thought, oh, Greg, that's unconscionable. That's not very nice. That's not very, I should be going, that's terrible, you poor thing. But this guy was laughing. And he really got to the zenith when I was actually living in Spain a few years ago. This was funny. And I was in a social situation. These people didn't know what I did for a living or the kind of interests I had. And I found in a social situation, I think I might have mentioned this to you, but anyway, this girl who I didn't know started to tell me about a suicide attempt, a dreadful suicide attempt. And I thought, this is interesting. This is a social situation. We're just having a chat. And and obviously I thought, well, I must be attracting this from what I do. But she started telling me about this, and then the Buddha started to laugh. I thought, no, Greg, no, this is not a good time. This person's telling me something absolutely terrible. He started to laugh, and she looked at me and was kind of like in shock. And then I noticed that, and I became a full-body laugh. She started to laugh, and the people listening around thought, what the? They started to laugh. And I thought, now this is interesting. It was like a circle of people, and everyone just started to lose it. And that was the end of the conversation. So on a level, on a non-logical, indecipherable level, that particular person, who I haven't seen again since, got something from that. Something happened. It was non-verbal. It was over the top. From out of context, you would say, you idiot. But it wasn't when people come into Reiki, I don't lose myself laughing. That's not the issue. But the issue was, I just remember that actual laughing Buddha coming in. I noticed he'd always pop up when situations of gravity were, and particularly in like my personal life, or someone coming to me and he kind of taught me, oh, this is interesting. It was like I was looking at the drama from the perspective of the cosmic joke.
Yeah, right.
As you say, there is in fact no suffering. In reality, there is no suffering. So it's a long-winded answer, but it's a curious one. For me, empathy comes from the realms of non-condition, and sympathy is its kind of counterpart in the realms of duality. Yeah. So, but they are quite different. They are quite different. There's a subtle difference. But you don't embody the issue. If you embody the issue, that's sympathy, and you just perpetuate the vibration of whatever suffering is going on.
And you're right. We can enable certain behaviors, attitudes, and embolden them. By sort of playing along with the victim mentality, and not to take away from the gravity of this person's situation. I mean, I've experienced firsthand, suicide in my own family. It was devastating. But there's also this thing about being responsible with your own resources, internal resources as a practitioner, and making sure there's enough to go around as well. And because we can become caught up in. And like I said, I'm not taking away from the situation, but we can get caught up in dramas if we become like. There's a term that I heard from, I think it was from one of the heart math guys. It was Overcare, and it's actually not helpful. And we said this before, before the live stream, where it's an egoistic sort of frame of mind where we're trying to solve the problems of the world and sort everyone out and fix everything, and it's just really not helpful. It's unhealthy. It's even potentially quite irresponsible, like use of our attention. And as we pay attention, do we have an unlimited amount, of that to pay, so to speak? But I also want to point out, I read I remember reading a Carlos Castaneda book. I've read a few of them, and they're pretty interesting.
They've got
there's one, I think it was the last one, even though like every one of them can be the last one just about, because he goes back and forth a bit. And I think it was the last one, The Fire Within. He talks about meeting a Nagual, which is like a shaman. And this guy was like a grandmaster Okay, so you had Don Juan, who was, Carlos Castaneda's teacher, but then there was Don Juan's teacher, and I can't remember his name. It wasn't, I can't remember his name, but anyway. But this guy was famous, and he was so good at what he did. And one of his greatest attributes is that he did not care too much. It was actually like, he would give anyone the shirt off his back, but he didn't care too much. He didn't overcare because it wasn't helpful. And this was born from, a long period of experience of interacting on many realms and things. Because, if you read Castaneda, it's obviously multi-dimensional, conversation. But yeah, so anyway, just I've got another couple of things on here, brother. Here's a good one. Okay, so we'll just do a quick fire one. So at this present moment in time, just a short answer, just how you're feeling right now. Describe Reiki in one word.
Love.
Beautiful. Cool. And if I ask myself that question, I come up with mindfulness, but that's just now. I mean, tomorrow that could change.
That's true. It can change.
And I think that's cool. Like this is where we're breaking dogmas here. We're not, there is when we're talking about the Asui system, there is a basic framework there, but it does allow for a creative license because we're all, like I said, and you used the best word before, playfulness, and we're still honoring. One thing I really like about Reiki is that it survived, so well. Like it had to go underground a couple of times, like in Japan. Like it was made illegal in Japan, in the very early days, and they had to do it, under the cover of darkness kind of thing, because it. I think it was because it conflicted with the state religion, and then it became illegal when they were at the end of World War II. Because when the Americans came in, obviously when Japan, submitted to the Allies, and the Americans came in and started rebuilding their infrastructure, and they did a lot of good things. But one thing they did was they introduced Western medicine. They said, "Yeah, but all this other stuff has to go," and so it had to go underground again. And obviously, it traveled to Hawaii, which went to the West, and then it came back to Japan. And a lot of what gets taught in Japan is actually the Western teachings, and so. There's a really interesting history, lots of story, and something else too that I like about what I was saying before about studying the symbolism of the symbols and the origins of the symbols and what they mean conceptually to people who came from there. The symbols come from different backgrounds. One of the symbols is a Shinto symbol, apparently. One of them is a Sanskrit symbol. One of them's a kanji, and these sorts of things. And they all have their own stories and concepts behind them. But there's also people who come to Reiki may have not had an experience of, say, a bit of background of Japanese culture, and how that can add a deeper context and a richness to what they're doing. Because in the West, even though we're kind of technically in the East, because we're in between, you and me, Aussie and New Zealand are kind of in the middle, and the West is to the East and the East is to the West. But if I was going to describe the West in one word, I would say do, and the East is be. And, like we're just busy doing all the stuff all the time. We can learn, like they've learned a lot from us, and we can learn a lot from them. And, and just slowing down and becoming mindful and going, man, you know what? And here it is, just perfect, just for today, just now in this moment. Just such a powerful little phrase. And I know that the clock's ticking here, and we've got to call it in a moment. But
it's so true. What you're saying is so true. I think Reiki is. I know when I teach students, it's a lot of it is about just being. And I think as a Reiki practitioner, as a Reiki channel, as a Reiki master, when I'm doing it, it is about being there. Just the beingness of it. And it's so much I really, one of my favorite pastimes now is just contemplation. So I'll just sit there. I won't even meditate. Just sit there and look out the window, and just let the mind do what it wants. So there's no agenda. None.
That's really awesome. That's a great nugget of wisdom right there. And I thank you for that, brother, because it's almost like you've got the two ends of the spectrum. You've got, concentration, hardcore concentration, putting the will in. Then you've got, meditation, which, a lot of people might equate with emptying the mind. But then you've got contemplation, where you're just allowing things to kind of like percolate or just do their own thing. And, and you're just allowing it to happen. And then something might pop up, a gem might arrive,
That's where inspiration comes from, I feel.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So here's a good one. Just in closing, and we'll definitely got a bit of time here to do a bit of a dig for some of the upcoming events for you, and how to get in touch with you and that. But in a nutshell, how does relaxation, calmness, radiating wellness, tranquility, peace and love and care, how does how do these things help the world? And I know it's a big thing to ask, but I just put it down there and see if you can just squish it down into something for us.
Oh, look, it's really nice. Look, I think in the end, we're all giving off energy, you do that, that's going to influence people around you, even not just those in the close proximity. I think because we have the way we're all wired as humans too, with the resonance thing, it's like we're talking about Reiki, so anybody listening to this, an aspect of their brain will also start to resonate with that. So basically, I think just to be the beacon of that, which exactly you said, it's like a beacon. It just radiates through you in other times, other dimensions as well. So I think, leading by example, I think, yeah, all those things you said are what it's all about. I just know with relaxation, I was fascinated early on that like when I was reading a book in a train years ago when I was studying music, I was conscious that I was holding myself. I thought, why am I holding myself? Like inside my body, there's this clenching. So I became fascinated with this notion of letting go. So, and all that whole letting go thing is really, there's a trust with that. We let go on the planet, we let go of our base chakras, so you let go of the whole thing, and that tends to infer a notion of for self-realization, it's letting go, not adding on. We're not adding on all these clever beliefs, clever talents. We're actually letting go, and that is the biggest gift to yourself and to those around you, and by extension the world. Letting go, remembering what we are. That
is just a nut, man. You're just dropping it, bro. Dropping it. So good, man. And that's it. Rather than bringing more in, putting time aside just to not have all these things, to ease the burden, in a sense, or to ease the load, so that if you're carrying things all the time, they'll be, you'll be conscious of them, I guess. And sometimes it's not about doing other things, it's about not doing things, and to freeing yourself up and freeing your internal resources, so that the landscape has got some time just to be viewed and enjoyed for what it is. And so anyway, brother, you've got coming up a course, and you've got a conference. What's going on, bro?
Yeah. Look, I got a Reiki course next weekend in Brisbane. So that's just a Reiki 2 course. So
are there any spots available?
I still do have one spot, because I just kind of it was kind of a under the hood course I've done ever since really this year. I've kind of been doing privately organized courses rather than public ones, but there is space. So for someone else, and I put it on to, I think yesterday I put it on to Facebook, that there's probably a bit late now, but it's a whole weekend. It's next weekend, Reiki 2. And then the weekend after that, speaking at the Paradigm Shift, which is great. That was the first time I ever spoke about my astral experiences after I'd written that book a few years before. So, and this is what is it, kind of like a symposium kind of thing? Well, it's all these speakers, and we talk from stuff from exactly, it's at the Gold Coast. I'm not sure if it's sold out or not. I know there's reduced ticketing, but it's also online. So you can go if you Google Paradigm Shift Summit or Gold Coast, you'll see it there. So I'm one of the speakers there. So that's a couple of days of speaking, and there's a workshop. So we, for everything from UFOs to astral to food to basically, a consciousness kind of situation happening. Perfect time to have it too with what's been happening. So I'm looking forward to talking there. That'll be kind of like a presentation with slides and stuff, talking about my astral awakening, if you like, and where it's led me. And yeah, that'll be fun. Share that stuff.
Yeah, and just on the astral thing, and I'd love to catch up with you again, and we can talk some astral stuff, because I
Yeah.
mean that's another level of cool, man. Would you say that your adventures in out of body astral projection, however we choose to frame that experience, have you found that to be beneficial to you as a Reiki practitioner and teacher?
Yeah, well, it did lead me to Reiki, first of all. I remember the vision of this wolf I had that led me to Reiki, which is really weird. So it kind of led me to that doorway of Reiki. I think and to answer your question, yeah, it goes hand in hand. What I like about Reiki is it's kind of like, you're able to materialize this stuff. You're actually able to use these insights and this energy in a very real way. So also in the astral, it's such a beautiful vibe. Like, it's an ecstatic way of being once you get through some of the hurdles, like anything. And for me, I realized that we do exist in this perfect state. So there is nothing to strive for. So for me, it's realizing that what in the human state makes me feel not that ecstatic. So it's kind of like knowing the template for what we truly are. So it is basically the healed state of being, or a higher vibrational state. So it's very much Reiki for me and astral kind of go hand in hand. They kind of, I think when people are receiving a Reiki treatment, I think part of their energy body kind of goes out. That's when they kind of go out of phase, when they kind of drop out a little bit. And I think there's actually an aspect of a higher vibrational body that's actually being worked on by yourself and other beings. And then that body is then put back in sync with the physical. So I think, that's my take on it. There is an astral occurrence happening. Yeah, so I think that they are very much related. But as an individual, I don't know how anyone else thinks or operates. So for me, that's the way the experiences I've had. So that they definitely go hand in hand in that way. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add too, like, I think, sorry, I mentioned earlier, part of the role, I think, of the teacher is to show the student that they had these things to start with. It's like the story of The Alchemist by Paul Coelho.
Yeah.
I haven't read the book, but I know enough about it. Although
Right.
I'm not going to quote from it. He goes on a big adventure to find out that the treasure was already sitting right below where he was sitting, and and I think a lot of one of the reasons why we might get attracted to developing spiritual capabilities and such is it's almost to change our worldview, so that if this is possible, well, what else is possible? I mean, astral projection is such a visceral experience, like it's so like wow, and so that can help just change your belief systems or your worldview to incorporate a much bigger view of reality, which will actually allow more possibility to actually occur. And so, look, hey, this is all in a nutshell. So, yeah, I don't know if you've got any final words on that, brother, or thereabouts.
Yeah, well, you're right. I think what the astral experience has taught me is to enjoy my authenticity. To kind of we often a lot of people spend a lot of time not being themselves, feeling they have to. They're almost living out the projection of other people around them. And to know who you are and what you are and what makes you tick and what you like to do. Like my spare time, as I said, I like to contemplate. I like to get in the garden. I like to go surfing. I like to be active. I play. I'm just a kid. I like to get out. I go walk about. I still, did that as a kid. Sometimes I just got to go walk bush, and I like to have fun, some people think, oh, Reiki master, you must be a very serious dude. Probably was always quite serious, but then always quite funny as well. So it's being authentic and getting away from this notion of being a good person in terms of what you think society thinks a good person is, or what your family thought a good. You know what I mean? Getting away from the projections of others and almost disappearing and realizing, hang on, what am I? Not who, but what actually am I? What do I enjoy? What do I endure? Get away from the enduring. And you're not a selfish person to do the things you love. That's one of the key things that I teach people, is that the mainstream, for some reason, probably religions as well, they teach us that humanity is some kind of carting, manacled, sacrificial, oh, that is a good person. He's done a job he didn't want to do to provide for his family. He's sacrificed his health. He's sacrificed his life by being there from those hours to those hours, doing something he didn't really want for the greater good. He's a good person. Absolute rubbish. That is the affliction of our times, and the greatest miscomprehension, the greatest tragedy. That is the human tragedy, is that people think they are doing the right thing to some greater good thing. It's not, and that is shifting sands, because that can change. Greater good in that country, in this time, in that decade, changing all the time. So it is to move beyond that and to really feel within yourself. And this is the spiritual adventure. This is the spiritual awakening, and connecting. And Reiki has really helped me do that, as well. I mean, I love it from that perspective as well. It is a spiritual unraveling of what I am, the obstacles, and that also carries over to my students and my clients. And I think to be authentic and to know what that means, and not to act as a sacrificial projection of others is rather important.
Yeah, bro, there's some great stuff there. I mean, we could definitely rap on about the this altruistic sort of hit mind job, that got shafted on humanity, man. Like, don't get me wrong, you know the difference between right and wrong, but you don't. And sometimes you have to go that extra mile to get what's right needed to be done. But there's also a false humility that gets sort of projected on us and expected of us, isn't there?
False humility is good, and when we're living in a time of this exaggerated use of virtue signaling.
Oh, man, all dropping it all good. Yeah.
And that is a sign that things are not quite right there. So one needs to think for oneself. And it's a beautiful time to flex spiritual muscle right now, because there's a lot of resistance. And resistance, as you said before, that is kind of the path to enlightenment. So great time to be human, actually.
Beautiful.
Just be authentic. I think to follow one's authentic path is what it's all about. And I mean, as I said, and you're the same. I mean, I'm just a normal guy. I still am, and I got interested in healing and went down that path. And you supported on that path. I wasn't someone who was 10 years old healing stones and healing, rabbits. I wasn't doing that kind of stuff. I wasn't out of the ordinary in that way. I just became interested in the healing aspect of things, because it's so experiential. So, anyone can do this stuff if you're interested, if it feels right,
Perfect. What a great place to call it there. I know you're late for a very important date. So what I'll do is I'll just if you could just stick around for one more second after the show.
Absolutely.
I'd just like to say thank you to everyone for tuning in and watching today. I'm very grateful for you all. Thank you so much. And I'm hoping that there's lots of good stuff you've taken away from this. And Greg and I will definitely catch up again, because this is such a wonderful topic to explore. And we're also talking about Reiki as well, and it just sort of flowers and flourishes and opens up all these other sorts of conversations. And so thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Have a beautiful week, beautiful day. Please check out the other podcasts, subscribe, like, and all that sort of stuff. I don't normally push that, but hey, why not, right? You guys be well, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.